Wow. Guys?
All right, we'll open up to questions for Coach.
James, we saw Zariah kind of surprised, I think, getting into the game last Saturday. How did he get himself to that point? Was he ahead of maybe the schedule that you anticipated for him in 2022?
No, we had felt all along that based on when the injury happened and rehab, and he's been awesome. I mean, he literally is in the either weight room or training room probably 3 hours a day. He's worked really hard, so he's right on schedule with where we thought he would be, but obviously the game circumstances helped with that too. But yeah, he's right on schedule and has handled it really well.
James, you're approaching your 100th career win. How have you just kind of seen Penn State grow as a program since you took over in 2014?
Well, obviously, you kind of put it into different categories, right? When we first got here, it was under very different times and very challenging times, and and then obviously we've had kind of a change. Obviously, as you guys know, from a leadership perspective at a university level and then an athletic department level. So there's been a ton of changes. Penn State's a place. Is it used to a whole lot of changes like we've had in the last 10 years? But I'm looking forward to kind of the direction we're going and really what we have done. If you look at the entire picture, I'm pretty proud. Obviously, there's some things that we need to do better and I need to do better and all those things, but the overall body of work, I'm pretty proud of.
James, you had mentioned that Christian Driver is playing both ways now. What went into that decision? Is that something that you see sticking moving forward, or do you ultimately hope to find one spot for him?
Yeah, we recruited him with the idea that he could play offense or defense. We felt like during the recruiting process, the best spot for him was defensive back. Our plan was specifically safety, and we wanted to kind of train him like we did Zach Key, start him at corner, and then transition him to safety. We feel like that working on an island on the perimeter as a corner really gave Zach Key a lot of confidence when he went into safety, so we wanted to do the same thing. And he'd really done some good things, but as the years gone on, he feels more comfortable at wide receiver. So came in and met with Taylor, came in and met with Terry, and then came in and met with me, and based on some depth and some injuries, we've kind of said, okay, towards the end of this year, we'll split time with you, help you get some work and get started at wide out. But we still need you to know what's going on defensively. So he's kind of splitting time during the week. But the plan is for moving forward that he'll be at wide receiver.
Hey James, Nicholas needs 199 yards for 1,000. How important is that, especially for a freshman?
It's not really something that we're focused on. We're focused on trying to find a way to beat Rutgers. If during that process, the guys have the ability, whether it's Nicholas or any of the other guys, have the ability to reach or meet some individual goals, then that's great. But we're really just focused on beating. Finding a way to beat Rutgers on the road in the Big Ten, and whatever comes with that as a byproduct is good.
James, this day and age, it's not uncommon to see programs bring in double-digit transfers. You all brought in 3 in the last off season.
What was it?
3. Those guys have all contributed significantly.
Yep.
What goes into when dealing with a number that high or that low, making sure that you hit more than you miss? It goes with like the evaluation and how have those guys been?
Yeah, I think again with us, we have tried to recruit guys that we know well is a big part of it, or have some strong connections to them at a time where it's hard. Things move fast. The other thing is we just have had some processes in place that have made it difficult, especially at mid-semester, which most of these happen. The turnaround in terms of getting guys into school and things like that have to happen fast. So there really needs to be a commitment from the top all the way down to do those types of things. But to that point, for us, it's to solve problems where you have some immediate holes that you have to fill. And then also what could factor into it is how many guys that you have go into the transfer portal that could create some challenges as well. So it's really kind of on both ends. That's why we're trying to have as many conversations now, so there's no surprises. We would like everybody to be as transparent as possible in both directions, so that everybody kind of can be prepared. This is also a small industry. We kind of all know each other. So it's amazing what you can find out too if you're willing to look and listen.
James, we've seen a lot of consistency out of the partner Mitch, top of the wide receiver depth chart. How would you evaluate the guys beyond them? Are you still kind of waiting for that third receiver to fully take it?
Yeah, I think there's some guys that have shown some good things. Malik Mega's shown some good things. Trey Wallace has shown some good things. Liam has shown some good things. There's a number of those guys. Omari has shown some things, so there's some flashes. I don't know if there's one guy that's totally separated himself on a consistent basis. There's been guys that have done it at times, but not on a consistent basis. So we'll continue to give those guys opportunities, whether they're behind those guys and tapping like we've done most of the year, or if it's a rotation.
James,
Leadership perspective, what kind of value has Jonathan Sutherland provided for your linebacker room since he's switched over to that spot?
Yeah, linebackers, defensively, special teams. He's been phenomenal. He's been a multiple-year captain. Done things the right way since he's arrived on campus, both on and off the field. Academically, I think he's gotten a master's degree as well. He's done it all. He's done it all and done it the right way. I'm a big fan of Sutherland. I'm really proud of him.
James, a couple weeks ago when you were talking about the conversations in the building, you mentioned talking to Danny O'Brien about quarterback. He's someone that is in his second year here. What has it been like working with him, and what has he brought, in the position that he's in right now?
Yeah, it's been good. I think I have a lot of history with Danny. I recruited Danny out of high school. I'm close with Danny's high school coach. Danny was the ACC Rookie of the Year playing for me when I was the offensive coordinator. And then obviously I left, and there was a coaching change at Maryland, and we stayed in touch kind of through that entire process. Then Danny had been playing in the CFL, and we stayed in touch, and he just kind of gotten to the point during his time in the CFL where he knew he wanted to get into coaching, and at some time he was going to have to make that decision. So we were able to bring him here, and he's been a real asset to the offensive coaches, and specifically Mike, working with the quarterbacks. We also obviously, because kind of how we grew up professionally, we kind of see things in a similar way in terms of how you prepare and how you read defenses and those types of things. So I think he's been really good. He's a guy that culturally understands kind of how we do things, and I think he's gotten to build a strong relationship with Mike and how Mike wants to operate as well. He's still a young guy professionally, but has done a really nice job for us.
Hey James, at this point in the season, how much is it about managing bumps and bruises and depth and all those things as opposed to putting your best team out there because you're trying to manage getting through the football season here at the end?
Yeah, it's all of that. It's all of that. There's no doubt about it. And the other thing, as you guys know, you see around college football. I'm not saying specifically here, but you see around college football, there's guys that are tapping out and going into the transfer portal. There's guys that are trying to redshirt. We got into a little bit of that earlier in the year. So it's different. It's different than it used to be. But the other end of the spectrum is you got the 4 games now that you didn't used to have, and how to manage that. The challenge is, you want to play those guys early to see what they can do. I wish I had a couple of those games now, from earlier in the year. But again, that's kind of how it all plays out. So. Just kind of a lot of moving parts, a lot of discussions, a lot of management, a lot of discussion with the coaches, a lot of discussion with the players. And you just have to make sure ultimately you're doing whatever you got to do to win this week, while also, being conscientious about the player and his future, and also what's in the best interest of the program too.
Two more.
James, last year you mentioned that Kalen King was much further along than a lot of freshmen you had encountered before. I'm curious where Abdul Carter is at this point of his freshman season, your ability to rely on him, lean on him with extended snaps. What kind of a rare territory does that place him in your 9 years here?
Yeah, very similar. And I would also say, it's magnified too because of the position he plays. You guys have heard me say before, I mean, the further away you are from the ball, the easier it is sometimes to get on the field because strength and size don't play as much of a role. Where he came in and he was already, strong. I remember having a conversation with him and his dad about how much bigger he needed to get. I think he was 235 at the time. I'm like, you don't have to get any bigger. You're plenty big. He's also a very mature kid, and he's a very disciplined kid, so those things really helped. But obviously there's a big difference between playing linebacker in high school compared to here and what we do and all the different formations and shifts and adjustments he has to make. And each week he's getting more and more confident, so with that he's making less mistakes. But he's also playing faster because he's more confident in what to do and how to do. So, it's different, at that position. I also would say that will linebacker position, in Manny's defense is an important position. So that factors it into it as well. But he's obviously been productive, and he's got acceleration and burst and aggression, like not too many people really on the planet. Let alone on our team. He does some really good things. So you guys see it, we see it, and he's growing every single week and getting better.
Has the calculus changed for spending red shirts from the coaching perspective, and also what's the feedback from parents and the players themselves in terms of how that works?
Say that one more time.
Has the calculus changed, like in terms of how you look at spending a red shirt or burning a red shirt over the last 5-10 years in terms of NIL, transfer portal, those different things, and what's the feedback from parents and the players themselves in terms of wanting to preserve those red shirts?
Yeah, so I think 90% of all these kids we recruit, although I try to talk them out of that and see the big picture, every single one of them thinks that they're going to be 3 years, and part of that plan, and that's just not, that's not the path that most guys take. If it works out, awesome, but it's just not the normal path. So I try to sell them on maximizing this experience here, and when the time comes and it's obvious to everybody, go. So it's interesting. The conversations in the summer are very different than the conversations right after training camp, when maybe it's harder than they thought it was going to be, or they're further down the depth chart than they thought there was going to be. So the conversations when you first get them here are different. Then right after training camp, they're different. Then a lot of times still their tune changes halfway through the season because the season hasn't necessarily gone how they thought it would go. The obvious ones are easy. I mean, we all see that, but it's all those guys that are right on the bubble. I think they all want to play in the beginning of the year, and then late in the year they'd like to try to preserve the red shirt if they could. A lot of them say I'd be comfortable just playing on special teams all year long, and then you get to the end of the year and they're like, I wish I didn't, So it's a moving target, and for me to sit here and say that I totally can project what it's going to be like and how it's going to go, there's just too many variables. Injuries factor into it with the guys that are ahead of them. Early success factors into it. Who we play factors into it. There's so many things, so it's hard to predict, and you just got to take each situation kind of case by case, and they're all unique. If that's fair, I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.